1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We also make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion. Yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. FBI Director Christopher Wray is speaking before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee as we have this quick conversation. And he has been drawing an amazing contrast between his testimony and the testimony of former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle. This has been a hearing so far that has led to Christopher Wray looking very forthcoming, discussing what he has discussed without any kind of evasion, as far as I can see. It has been commented on, and certainly the demeanor of the committee is much less feisty or combative than it was for former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle. He has pointed out some things that are important for you to know, and that is that the FBI is doing a different investigation than the Secret Service, or the FBI IG, or the DHS IG, or the Secret Service Inspector General. That's what IG stands for. But let's get to the testimony as we come to this particular circumstance. Adam Schiff of California is currently questioning FBI Director Christopher Wray. Let's go to that coverage from the House Judiciary Committee itself on the Wells Report for more information on just exactly what's going on with that testimony.
Tragic shooting. Have you been able to gain access to the shooter's electronic communications, social media, and with the caveats that you mentioned that the investigation is still early, have you been able to make any deductions, or are there any indications of the shooter's motivation from those electronic holdings?
So in terms of our ability to access it, we have been able to get into and exploit a number of electronic devices, digital devices, but not all of them yet. And then within his various accounts, we've been able to get access to some of them, but some of them we're still waiting on. Some of them we may never get access to because of the encryption issue, that it presents an increasingly vexing barrier for law enforcement, not just the FBI, but for law enforcement all over the country. But we're still drilling into that. We have some information. Some places we've been able to look. Some places we will be able to look. Some places we may never be able to see, no matter how good our legal process is. But that's what we're looking at right now. In terms of what we've been able to find so far, a lot of the usual repositories of information have not yielded anything notable in terms of motive or like ideology. Having said that, it does appear fairly clear that he was interested in public figures, kind of more broadly, and I think this is important, that starting somewhere around July 6th or so, he became very focused on former President Trump and this rally. And so one of the things that I can share here today that has not been shared yet is that we've just in the last couple of days found that from our review, to your point about devices, analysis of a laptop that the investigation ties to the shooter reveals that on July 6th, he did a Google search for, quote, how far away was Oswald from Kennedy? And so that's a search that obviously is significant in terms of his state of mind. That is the same day that it appears that he registered for the Butler rally.
And when you say that his electronic holdings indicated an interest in different public figures, without revealing anything you're not comfortable revealing about those public figures, can you tell us anything generally about them, either the offices they hold, their political party, or was it simply people of a high profile?
Well, a couple things. First, the images that we've recovered so far from, I can't remember which of his various devices appeared to be what we call cached images from searches of news articles. So if you do a news article search, of course, if there are photos on it, those photos get stored automatically in your cache, as opposed to me searching or him searching for a specific person and getting up images of that person. As far as the pictures that are like that, doesn't seem to be a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it so far, other than these are all prominent public people, but they cover both parties, they cover both U.S. people and even some foreign public officials. So that part doesn't appear to, that one repository of information doesn't appear to be overly indicative of motive, other than interest in public figures, but that could be just because he was reading news stories. So we're still trying to drill into that. That's why all of these outstanding legal process returns that we're waiting on for various accounts, platforms, et cetera, any one of them could be one that would have very indicative, very important information.
If I can be permitted one very short additional question, Chairman. From that, any indication of any other particular target, that is someone who was not just sort of generically the subject of the searches you described, but for which there was more of an interest than others?
There's the information I just described at the moment does not appear particularly indicative of targeting in its own right. But again, that dot, once we get other information, could connect in a way that might be more meaningful. But I'm sharing that piece of information with this committee and with the American public, but I think it's important that we put down a qualification. This does not appear to be some kind of target list or something like that. This is cached images from running searches of news stories. And again, there's nothing at the moment, there's no pattern from that particular piece of information that is overly remarkable so far.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
You are watching live coverage of the Judiciary Committee investigation into just exactly what happened on the assassination attempt of President Trump. Christopher Wray, FBI director, is testifying, and he has just dropped something that was very interesting in that Thomas Crooks did a search on the distance between Lee Harvey Oswald's shot to President Kennedy from a standpoint of distance. And so back to the testimony.
Terrorism ties. And I have also been very vocal about the fact that since the last time I appeared before you, that we are increasingly concerned about the possibility, not just of a foreign terrorist inspired attack, which is very much a concern, but even the potential for a coordinated foreign terrorist attack, perhaps like what we've seen against the concert hall in Russia, for example, but just here in the United States.
Well, the 19 suicide bombers who overstayed visas were responsible for 3,000 American deaths on 9/11. What's your best estimate of the number of foreign terrorists who are now in our country?
I don't know that I could give you that number. What I can tell you is we have lots of foreign terrorism related investigations, but that doesn't mean that all of them came in illegally or anything like that.
It seems to me that the simplest act of terrorism would be for dozens of guerrillas to attack low security, high density venues, for example, Friday night high school football games all across the country at the same hour with bombs and automatic weapons. That would produce thousands of casualties from coast to coast in a matter of minutes. How likely is such a scenario?
Well, what you're describing would require, of course, a lot of coordination. But what I will tell you, and I think you're onto a particularly important point from my perspective, which is that unlike the 9/11 attacks, which, again, I was in FBI headquarters on the day of 9/11, and so I remember it vividly, and I've spent plenty of time in the period after that in my prior positions engaged with the families and the victims. But what we're seeing more and more with the foreign terrorist threat, and frankly, also the domestic terrorism threat, is a focus on kind of like what you're talking about, well, what I would call soft targets, which is really for the American people's benefit, just intelligence community speak for where everyday people live their everyday lives.
What terrorist groups have now infiltrated our country that you're tracking?
Well, I don't know that I would say infiltrated. We have investigations as we speak that relate to ISIS and its affiliates. We have investigations as we speak that relate to Al-Qaeda. We have investigations as we speak that relate to Al-Shabaab. We have investigations as we speak that relate to the Iranian proxies, Hezbollah, and so frankly, even the IRGC Quds Force itself.
What foreign criminal gangs are now in our country that you're most concerned with?
Well, foreign criminal gangs, I mean, we obviously have investigations, a lot of investigations into, gangs like MS-13, for example, and some of its counterparts. Although I think if you were to talk to most chiefs and sheriffs like I'm doing every week, we shouldn't underestimate how prevalent neighborhood gangs are, really. It's a lot of the gang violence.
Well, I'm concerned about those that we've allowed in through the southern
This
border.
is Representative Tom
They are
McClintock of
opposing,
California.
do you believe that the vetting performed at the southwest border is adequate to ensure that aliens with terrorist or criminal gang ties are not being released into the United States?
Well, it's not really for me to speak to the vetting. What I would tell you is that
You have to deal with it once they're released into the United States.
and one of the concerns that I have, which I touched on briefly in my opening, is there's been a lot of focus on the number of known or suspected terrorists encountered at the border, and that number has increased over the last 5 or 6 years, and that should be of concern. But frankly, to me, the bigger concern is individuals who weren't either weren't on the watch list at the time they came in because there wasn't information known yet that ties them to terrorism, and it's only after they get in that some new piece of information develops somewhere overseas, and now we know. That's a bigger concern.
We've been warned that they basically bet against a blank sheet of paper. If they don't have a record in this country, Border Patrol probably doesn't have any record. They're released into the country. You find out later of the dangers.
Or if they use fake documents and there aren't biometrics to connect them. Sometimes there are people who come in who, because of the nature of the threat information that puts somebody on the watch list, there wasn't, fingerprints from the person at the time, because not every piece of intelligence comes with fingerprints. So then the guy comes in using a fake ID,
and of course,
and there's no reason to connect them.
And of course, the 2 million gotaways you know absolutely nothing about.
Exactly. Well, I don't know about absolutely nothing, because we may come across them in other things. I mean, one of the key parts of our collective defense here is that we work with 800,000 sworn law enforcement across the country, and we train them on the right questions to ask and things like that, so that we can build in additional eyes and ears if they, do a traffic stop or whatever happens to be. We run a greater chance of leveraging all that to pick up people who may have slipped through the cracks.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Director, we're about 100 days until the election. Russia has attacked our democracy in past elections. Are they seeking to do it in this one?
We assess that the Russian government continues to want to influence and in various ways interfere with our democracy, with our electoral process. In fact, just in the last few weeks, we announced a significant disruption of a generative AI enhanced social media, bot farm essentially of the Russians that was designed to be an influence operation, and some of the fictitious profiles of those bots purported to be U.S. persons. So they're still at it. We've seen that in election cycle after election cycle.
Do the Russians have a preferred candidate?
I'm not sure that I could speak to that here, but certainly what I would tell you is it's not just the Russians. And I think that's important.
This is Representative
There's
Eric
a lot of attention
Swalwell,
to the
somewhat
Russians,
off
as
topic
there should
for
be.
this particular round of testimony
We
from
also
Christopher
know,
Wray, the FBI director.
under
You're watching the Wells Report, live coverage of the U.S. House Judiciary Committee.
An effort by the Iranians to try to interfere. And more recently, we've had indictments related to China. 34 Chinese MPS officers creating fictitious personas, posting false information online, full of narratives designed to sow divisiveness, discord, undermine us. And I'm talking about narratives that they were pushing, again, purporting to be Americans, but actually Chinese MPS officers. For example, trashing any suggestion that COVID came from a lab leak, or trashing U.S. law enforcement on the occasion of the anniversary of George Floyd's death.
And shifting to the attempted assassination on the former president, I want to make it clear, in America, violence has never been the answer. Not on a certain day in January or a recent day in July. And I just want to go through the shooting just briefly with you. How many armed officers were within the perimeter, just ballpark figure?
That really goes to the security posture, which is the subject of the DHS Inspector General's review and the outside panel, independent panel that's
Would you say probably more than 100 though?
I have to believe that number, but I don't have that number at my fingertips. Our focus is on the shooter and his attack.
And the shooter was able to get 8 shots off before he was killed.
That's what it would appear, yes.
Type of weapon used by the shooter was an assault rifle?
Was an AR-style rifle,
So that means one trigger pull, one round, is that right?
essentially.
Do you like to shoot?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know the difference between an AR and a bolt action rifle?
I'm not going to try to sit here and engage on sort of firearms expertise, but I've
a
fired a
bolt-action-
variety of weapons. But
Had the shooter used a bolt action rifle, would that have been one trigger pull, one round?
that's my understanding.
Would there had to have been more, well, on an assault rifle, trigger pull, round, bolt action, non-assault rifle, what's the difference? Is it faster, slower?
He was able to get more rounds off more quickly than he would have with other kinds of weapons.
And that's my point, is that we can add additional resources to protect political candidates, and we should. The people who went to that rally deserved to be protected from gun violence, just like the students at Parkland deserve to be protected from gun violence, just like the babies at Sandy Hook deserve to be protected from gun violence. So we'll devote more resources. We've added a presidential candidate who is also now protected. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we have armed this country to the teeth. And we have allowed the most dangerous people to have access to the most dangerous weapons. And I say that as a parent of a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, the 2 oldest who have done multiple mass shooter drills in their classrooms. I say that as a brother to 2 police officers who walk a very violent beat. And I say that as an elected official who believes that my colleagues deserve to be as safe as I deserve to be when we are at political rallies. And so we really need to step back and think, if we allow these weapons to be in our country, can we truly protect our elected officials? And can we truly protect, most importantly, our children and the next generation? I yield back.
That is Eric Swalwell of California, attempting to tie the one trigger pull to one round to Thomas Crooks. It must be noted at this particular moment that indeed a successful assassination of a president occurred with a bolt-action rifle. That being said, this is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells with you. And we are watching the testimony of Christopher Wray in front of the House Judiciary Committee. Thomas Massie, the representative, is now questioning Christopher Wray. Let's rejoin our coverage of the House Judiciary Committee.
I'm not aware of any physical gallows. I can't remember whether from a demonstration perspective, there may not have been some kind of replica or symbol of something like that.
That's my impression. Can we show, can you raise that up so you can see it? It looks like there was some kind of prop that was built. The construction doesn't look like it lends itself to actually hanging somebody. It's more of a prop, I think, as you suggested, that was erected on January 6th. But if the president were correct, that these gallows were erected to hang Mike Pence, that would be a very serious allegation, wouldn't it?
I would take it very seriously, yes.
Has anybody been arrested, or do you have any leads in conjunction with the erection of this gallows? We had a picture here on the screen, if you can show it again. It was just up there. There's an individual here who's seen on near these gallows. Has he been arrested? Have you identified this person?
You know, I don't know that I can speak to this specific person or the gallows that are pictured on the image. You know, we have had, I think, 850 people who have pled guilty to federal crimes related to January 6th. And I think, you know, another 180, I think it is, convicted at trials. So I can't be sure.
And some of them merely for going into the Capitol, but here the president suggests that individual intended to hang Vice President Pence, which seems like kind of a wild claim myself, given the construction of those gallows. But if we are to take him seriously, or even if we aren't, let me just finish by saying this. If you have no leads, or you're not sure if anybody who erected those gallows was arrested or is being investigated, you know, were there any confidential human sources involved from the FBI or any other agency in the erection of that prop, those gallows?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
All right, thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Director Wray. Political violence of any kind is dangerous, unlawful, and totally unacceptable. Just as we all watched and then unequivocally condemned the attempted assassination attempt on our former president, I wish that we could all come together to unequivocally condemn the act of political violence on January 6th, instead of defending props that were used, that were harmful, dangerous props of gallows, attempting to show what people wanted to do to Vice President Pence. Extremists attempted to subvert our democracy in the worst assault on the US Capitol since the War of 1812. Many of us were trapped in the gallery that day. We feared we would not make it out. Insurrectionists were chasing down former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and then Vice President Mike Pence. And I myself have been the direct target of political violence when an armed man with a gun showed up at my door, threatened.
This is Representative Pramila Jayapal from Washington
Washington
State, the Washington
So I
7th
understand
Congressional District.
the increased tenor of political violence that is racking our country. It has been on the rise, fomented by violent and dehumanizing rhetoric from top public officials, including the former president and members of Congress, sadly, and bolstered by the proliferation of easily accessible guns, including assault-style weapons. All of this violence is unacceptable, and I wholeheartedly condemn it. I just hope we condemn all of the violence, not just one or two incidents. Mr. Wray, today I want to focus on the role of the FBI and the need for the Bureau to remain politically neutral and independent. The FBI cannot and should not be subject to the whims of any president. The majority apparently doesn't think that the FBI needs to be politically neutral and independent. They want an FBI subordinate to the president, not accountable to the American people. That is one part of a larger plan to undermine our democracy, to remove the checks and balances that have protected us, and ultimately to subvert our freedoms. That agenda, promulgated by the former president, his loyalists, and their MAGA allies, is called Project 2025. It is publicly available online. I encourage everyone who's watching this to Google it. It includes plans to undermine every part of our government, including the FBI. Trump's Project 2025 agenda says that the director of the FBI must not be independent of politics, but instead must do whatever the president orders. Under Trump's Project 2025, Trump loyalists would undermine the non-political and independent structure of the FBI. Project 2025 openly calls on the next conservative administration to support, quote, a vast expansion of the number of political appointees in every office across the DOJ, especially the FBI.
This is
So,
the
Mr.
Wells
Wray,
Report. Pramila Jayapal using her time to question Christopher Wray regarding his investigation and the FBI's investigation of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, to grind an axe regarding Project 2025, which is not a product of the Trump administration. That's Agenda 47. Indeed, Project 2025 is from the Heritage Institute. Pramila Jayapal knows that, and apparently is trying to hang that particular project on the shoulders of Donald Trump. The thing about it is the Heritage Foundation is a think tank, and indeed, President Trump has made it abundantly clear that indeed he has nothing to do with Project 2025. Rather, he has Agenda 47. Now, Project 2025 apparently has tweaked the spidey senses of various Democrat politicians, thinking about it as some kind of sinister way to take over the government, when in reality, it is a roadmap for conservative influence on the government of the United States, not unlike various leftist proposals that have done the exact same thing. But this is an election year, and politicians will politicate, if you want to create a term. And that is exactly what some of these members are doing, taking their eyes off the ball with regards to FBI Director Christopher Wray. We'll monitor the testimony. If there is anything regarding the actual assassination attempt and some of the things that we know about it, then we will certainly return to that coverage. But at this particular moment, it seems to be like another attempt to use a national stage, national spotlight, in order to grind various political axes. I would also like to amplify something else. Eric Swalwell of California was trying very hard to talk about the firepower of an AR-15. You have to understand something, that had it been a bolt-action rifle, given similar circumstances, say, for example, caliber, what have you, then the first shot would have done exactly what the first shot did. The other shots probably would have been slower, but insofar as, say, for example, Corey Comparator is concerned, Mr. Comparator was in the line of fire. And so there isn't much political grist to be milled on all of that. And this is, again, another tiresome escapade into we've got to get rid of these guns, which will never, ever happen in the United States. It just won't happen because as I have constantly brought up, following the January 6th riot, there were actual weapons of war, actual patterned rifles that look like AR-15s, but I guarantee you they are most assuredly not. And what you have here is you have just a political axe being ground for the sake of what? National television? Really? So once again, we'll keep our eyes on this. There is, however, more information about the assassination attempt. Body camera footage recorded in the aftermath of the assassination attempt on former President Trump showed law enforcement discussing how a sniper lost sight of gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks. Senator Chuck Grassley, the Republican from Iowa, posted the 3-minute video on social media yesterday. The footage shows authorities on the roof of a building in Butler, Pennsylvania, where Crooks was shot dead by snipers. Beaver County snipers seen and sent pictures out. This is him, one law enforcement officer tells another man who appears to be a Secret Service agent, on the roof. Rifles right there, obviously, another law enforcement officer says as he points to the weapon. We do indeed have that entire body cam video, at least which was released by Senator Chuck Grassley, and we'd like to show that to you right now. Keep in mind that these are people following the actual assassination attempt, and they are trying to figure out just exactly what lies before them from a standpoint of the crime scene.
Yes, that they sent the.
So we don't know. So this is the guy that
yes, that they sent the. Yes, Beaver County sniper seen and sent the pictures out. This is him.
Okay.
Rifles right there, obviously.
Got it. So the bike in the back. Is he on that bike?
We don't know.
We don't know. So
I
we're
don't
just treating that as suspicious device.
Correct. 1 second. I believe the sniper that seen these and sent the pictures is right inside this building. Michelle, is Greg in there? All right, so if you go to that window that's open and yell for Greg, that's the sniper that sent the original pictures and seen him come from the bike and set the book back down and then lost sight of him.
Okay.
He's the one that sent the pictures out. I don't know if you got the same ones I did.
I think I did, yeah. He's like got his glasses on and he's
So we had the picture of that.
I got that.
Okay, and then this is his bike with the stuff. And our sniper seen him walking away from that, I believe.
Okay.
But he would be right inside that window. He's the one that physically seen this, sent the pictures, and called it out.
Okay, so and we have somebody detained, correct?
That I don't know.
People detained on this side. Our guy that was just up here told me that there's a guy detained. He's the owner of the bike, and I said, no, that's the owner of the bike.
Yeah, basically, we've been up here, so we wouldn't know that information.
We just hauled ass. We got over
Right,
it.
got it.
We hopped up on the roof.
Yeah, that's no problem. Is that all your stuff?
That was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone came up looking to treat him. And
Yes.
okay.
Copy. Gas is off to the building, just so you know.
Thank you. Yeah, they do. I talked to the guy. They were those people detained were filming. Maybe they were involved. Maybe they weren't.
Other than that, I haven't heard anybody.
Well, I think it's the guys that saw them filming were like, oh, they were filming us, and then filming the guy up on the roof, and then filming us, and then when shots started firing, they like tried to run away. He's like, isn't that what everybody would do that has a phone? You know, I'm not saying they weren't involved, but you know what I mean? Like that.
It's up in the air right now, right?
Right. So I got no problem detaining them. But again, I'm just trying to detain those guys, find out what they know, who they are, whatever. I'm trying to get clear information to relay back to DC. We have one shooter deceased. I think we have 3 victims in the crowd. Is that, did you guys hear that too?
That I'm not sure.
So I heard 1 deceased, 2 life flighted.
I know 2 helicopters did take off.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know how many
Hello?
victims.
3 are deceased.
We have access to a drone. What is this water tower?
Any LE?
I will try to confirm.
All right, so that is indeed the video that Senator Chuck Grassley put out into social media. The first law enforcement officer whose body camera was recording said the sniper who spotted Crooks was still in a building nearby, showing where the sniper was located. That's the sniper who sent the original pictures and seen him come from the bike and then set a bag down, then lost sight of him. He's the one who sent the pictures out. I don't know if you got the same ones I did. The man who appears to be a Secret Service agent said, yeah, I believe I did. He's got the glasses on. The footage was obtained from the Beaver County Emergency Services Unit. Grassley posted it on X. Fox News Digital blurred the image of the body. That's where we got this. The man who appears to be a Secret Service agency then asked, have we had, and we have someone detained, which is an interesting piece of information. That I don't know, the officer replied. Another officer said there were 2 people detained on this side. Our guy who was just up there told me there's a guy detained who is the owner of the bike. And I said, no, that's the owner of the bike, appearing to point to Crook's body. We've been up here, so we wouldn't know that information. We just hauled, okay, I'll say it. We just hauled ass and got over here. We just hopped up on the roof, another person can be heard saying. The agent later said the people who were detained had been filming. Maybe they were involved, maybe they weren't. The guys that saw them filming go, they were filming us, then filming the guy on the roof, then filming us. And then when the shots started firing, they ran away. And I go, isn't that what everybody was doing? The agent said, I have no problem detaining them. Detain those guys. Find out what they know, who they are, whatever. Again, I'm trying to get clear information to relay back to D.C., referring to Washington, D.C. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle resigned yesterday amid criticism over the security lapses that allowed Crooks to get to a rooftop and get a clear shot of President Trump as he was speaking to supporters. There is other information regarding what the Republican Party is now saying about the motivations, the possible motivations of Thomas Matthew Crooks. This from USA Today. As the FBI investigation of the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump unfolds, the image of the shooter that comes into focus is that of a lonely young man, possibly struggling with mental illness, who, like guns, had no evident political motive. after senators were briefed by investigators on July 17th. The New York Times reported that the FBI searched 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crook's phones, laptop, other possessions, but, quote, no clear motive for the attack has emerged, unquote. A senator at the briefing who spoke to USA Today on the condition of anonymity said investigators have interviewed at least 220 people and still haven't uncovered a motive for the attempted assassination. There are as many reasons why people commit violence as there are pieces of sand on a beach. This was from Catherine Schweit, who is a former FBI special agent who authored a study to aid responses to active shooter incidents, speaking to USA Today. Quote, this type of targeted violence is sometimes they want to be somebody. They want to be back in control of their world. And then it may be as simple as, who's the closest person that I can try to kill that's going to make my name go down in history? Crook's web browsing history shows he searched for information on President Joe Biden, the Democrat National Convention, Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, a British royal, according to the report of the briefing. This conflicts with the immediate responses to Trump's shooting from some prominent Republicans who asserted the shooter was motivated by Democrat condemnation of Donald Trump. By the way, that is a piece of biased reporting by USA Today. This is essentially attempting to provide a narrative that argues with what people said in the heat of the moment, and indeed that has no place in this story from a journalistic standpoint. Once again, we point out fact and bias. USA Today succumbing to bias in that particular statement. Just hours after a bullet came within an inch of hitting Trump in the head, Senator J.D. Vance said the Biden's campaign rhetoric that Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs led directly to the assassination attempt. Trump subsequently chose Vance to be his running mate. Again, this is an opinion from J.D. Vance. It's an opinion. And so, okay, he can think that all he wants to. But did overheated political rhetoric lead to this particular act of violence? Again, it's just an opinion, but I would say so. Especially, again, concerning what's not available about Thomas Matthew Crooks. There are 3 encrypted accounts offshore. Apparently, the FBI does not have information on that, so says Christopher Wray, regarding his testimony in front of the Judiciary Committee this morning. And so they are still attempting to work through all of those things. Those encryptions are difficult. There are also stories in the mainstream media that have been verified by other stories in the mainstream media talking about 2 phones, including one used for a call shortly before the assassination attempt. Again, I will point this out and make it abundantly clear. This is in the early stages. We don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on from the IG inspections, the various agencies doing their inspector general investigations at this time. There are scant details coming out of the FBI investigation, although Christopher Wray, to his credit, the director has been very forthcoming with this committee, so much so that the committee is essentially not creating a wolf pack mentality as they did with Kimberly Cheadle, whose sole purpose in her hearing earlier this week was to not say anything about anything having to do with the Secret Service in an effort to not put herself or her agency on the record. It cost her her job. It did, and it should have. But on the other hand, she would rather be able to maintain some kind of plausible deniability based on differences of opinion regarding the investigations that will be made public, at least excerpts of those investigations that will be made public in the near future. She knew what she was doing. She was being evasive. She was simply not trying to put something on the record that would create a basis for even more questions later on, rather choosing to indeed simply let those investigations tell the story while she remained silent. And yeah, cost her her job. Should have. This is the Wells Report. That's what I see so far. Like I said, we'll be paying more attention to the Wray hearing as it unfolds, but so far it's just turned into a circumstance whereby at least Democrats on the committee are interested in talking about other issues. Although Republicans have also brought up a whole lot of different things, not having to do with anything involving the attempted assassination, up to and including a hastily built prop gallows that was on the grounds of January 6th. Don't know what that's all about. Don't know what these people are doing, but they're wasting golden opportunities to ask questions of the FBI director and essentially, in my view, wasting a whole bunch of time. But then again, that's just me. This is the Wells Report. Stick around. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments for this Wednesday, July 24th, year of our Lord, 2024.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Our telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The New York Times is out with a report that I'd like to share with you here if I can find it again. Having to do with the rather startling statement by Christopher Wray earlier today that Thomas Matthew Crooks actually searched the distance between Lee Harvey Oswald and John Kennedy during a successful assassination attempt on a U.S. president. And that was something that even elicited gasps from the people inside the room. You will be hearing more about that. You'll also be hearing more about this. From Fox News, a top House Democrat who took part in a bipartisan walkthrough of the Butler Farm Show grounds in Pennsylvania, where President Donald Trump was nearly assassinated, said law enforcement rank and file seem apprehensive to speak publicly about, quote, who is in charge, unquote. Representative Lou Correa, the Democrat from California, said officers who serve are great people and that breakdowns that led to the fatal event earlier this month prove interagency clarity and cooperation is badly lacking. Correa praised Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner Colonel Christopher Paris for being forthright during the Tuesday House Homeland Security Committee hearing on the Trump rally shooting. He added that local officials and law enforcement in the Butler area he met with were equally admirable. Correa said the local agency members approached him during a private congressional walkthrough and told him they needed to talk more about what they saw on the ground. Again, this is significant. Quote, a couple of folks there kind of hinted to me that everybody locally is not comfortable going out and giving their opinion, which is understandable. But one individual said he's not quite sure who was in charge. Quote, there was a local supervisor or council member who said that we need to talk some more. You guys, Congress, need to hear more about what happened and what didn't happen. They weren't here in Washington. We need to get their opinions and thoughts. Those people that were here or were there where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, are the people that they need to hear from. Correa added that, comparatively speaking, the Secret Service is a small operation of around 3,600 agents, where Paris said the PSP, that's the Pennsylvania State Police, employs about twice that number. Local police and state troopers are really force multipliers in this case. There are some things you need to work on to fix the process, said Correa. He said after the House hearing with Paris and his trip to Northwest Pennsylvania, the best thing to do is to, quote, go back to the drawing board and really start kicking the tires in terms of guidance and Secret Service, what they do, how they address, and work with local public safety agencies. So that pretty much is everything that we know so far. And while I have been extremely cautious and will remain very cautious about getting out in front of any parts of this story, what we can see is that there are, one, the video that we just played was very, very good. Everybody exchanging information on the rooftop where the body lay in place, along with the rifle, probably moved by police officers away from the body, or maybe have been thrown there after the shot hit. Who knows? But all we can say is that that was a very professional exchange by the people. The Secret Service, the apparent Secret Service agent, could have been a DHS guy, but they were trying to get what was in front of them, actually analyze what they saw, figure out what that meant, and indeed ask for more information, especially about two people apparently detained. I have not heard anything about those people. I will try to effort that as this broadcast continues and in the coming days. The other thing that's going on here is that there are indeed bipartisan people on Capitol Hill looking for answers in this, and that is good. That is good. This notwithstanding the grandstanding that we've seen by various members, both, it's bipartisan grandstanding, by both members or by both parties, when they have Christopher Wray right there in front of them. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, being fulsome and forthcoming and being extremely good about talking about what he could talk about and talking about what he couldn't talk about in a way that still elicited information. He's done a very good job with this hearing. Not always the case, in my opinion, but it's certainly not the case today. And why you would waste all that time with the FBI director sitting in front of you who is conducting the investigation? I mean, why would you not discuss some of the things that were on the ground? You know, I'm sure that this is going to come up in this hearing, but we've got to start establishing this timeline. Now, you know what the timeline is. We reported it here on the Wells Report, thanks to a superb analysis of the actual assassination attempt by NBC News. And that information is in the public domain. And so we know a lot more about what's being talked about, which is also understandable. But if it's out in the public domain, you would think that there would be at least some comment on it. Or in the case of these representatives on the House Judiciary Committee, a willingness to ask about that information in the public domain. And now we're talking about assault rifles. We're talking about high-capacity magazines. We're talking about how we've got gun violence in the United States and on and on and on. What needs to be talked about is just exactly how come we know so little about Thomas Matthew Crooks. As I said earlier, and had been noted by other people who observed this program, what we're seeing is tradecraft. Okay, so who taught him the tradecraft? What about this other phone? Who is he talking to? There are also other interesting pieces about where those phones pinged in the parts of the country that have yet to be brought up, and I have yet to confirm, and therefore I have not reported them on this broadcast. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Coming up, hour number 2, Kamala Harris apparently is having a really good 3 days. We'll be talking more about that coming up in just a couple of moments. And also the possibility of a Harris-Trump debate. Is that going to happen? We'll find out in just a few minutes.
Chair owners, this is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report, a report that reports the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. We compare. We debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. That's 817-379-2172. You can also join us on the chat room. We encourage people to, by all means, talk a little bit about what they think, and we share that when we can. And so there was a fascinating series on HBO called The Circus. While it was decidedly biased, as you might expect, HBO is a creature of NBC News and NBC Entertainment that was perhaps not well executed as much as it was such a great idea. I was really fascinated by it. I really was. And the circus has most decidedly begun. It began when Joe Biden decided what he was going to do was step out of his re-election campaign and indeed throw his endorsement behind Kamala Harris, his vice president. And in the last 3 days, there have been amazing things that have happened around the Kamala Harris apparent campaign for president. We have some live updates. This from 25 minutes ago. Former President Donald Trump is leading Vice President Harris in a hypothetical general election matchup, according to a new poll conducted after she rose as the likely Democrat nominee. CNN conducted a survey after President Joe Biden withdrew from the 2024 presidential race, backed Harris for the nomination. The poll found that if the general election were held today, President Trump would hold a 3-point lead over Harris, 49% to 46%. The results released today also reveal that Harris is performing better than Biden did in recent CNN hypothetical matchups against Trump. According to the poll, about 9 in 10 voters approve of President Biden's decision to end his re-election bid. 76% of Democrats or Democrat-leading voters said that Harris should be nominated as their party's 2024 nominee, days after Biden dropped out of the race. Among Democrat respondents, 75% say they are confident in her chances of beating former President Trump in November. The CNN poll was conducted from 22 to 23 July with a margin of error plus or minus 3 percentage points. So the 3-point lead is just at the very edge of the error. And of course, snap polls like this are notoriously finicky when it comes to actual accuracy. There is something else that has to be said. This is a CNN poll, and you don't really know what questions were actually asked. In other words, yeah, there's a plus or minus 3% error rate, but you don't know what questions were asked of anybody in this poll. And they're very, it's a snapshot. It's very, very early. And it must be noted that polling in presidential campaigns and indeed elections have been notoriously warped for the sake of political effect. And that is certainly the case here. Now, there from about 3 minutes ago, James Carville is now suggesting that Vice President Harris has a more vulnerable road ahead than happy Democrats think. Indeed, he calls it tough sledding. Democrat strategist James Carville warned members of his party to be careful in their support of Vice President Harris and said there was tough sledding ahead. This has been a real change in mood in the party and around the country, but we got to be a little careful. That's a quote, so I didn't fix the grammar. There's about a 10% too much Trump triumphalism going on, and you know it's going to be a difficult race, said Carville during a Wednesday interview on MSNBC's Morning Joe. It's going to be very close. I understand that people are feeling a lot better. They're excited. Then he said this, quote, but that excitement has got to be tempered with realism. The realism is she has a tough campaign on. As you say, she's got several things she's got to accomplish all at the same time. From 13 minutes ago, top Jewish Republican groups are criticizing VP Harris for snubbing the speech by Benjamin Netanyahu to Congress. This is an exclusive from Fox News. A top grassroots group that represents Jewish Republicans is taking aim at Vice President Kamala Harris for being absent from tonight's speech or today's speech by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in front of a joint meeting of Congress. The Republican Jewish Coalition, in an announcement shared first with Fox News, is launching a 5-figure digital ad buy in key election swing states that accuses the vice president and presumptive Democrat presidential nominee for, quote, snubbing the Israeli prime minister and his address to Congress. The Speaker of the House and Vice President, in the constitutional role as President of the Senate, usually presides over joint meetings and sessions of Congress. However, Harris will be notably absent while Netanyahu is addressing Congress. The Vice President will instead be attending a previously scheduled luncheon with the Zeta Phi Beta sorority. So we're continuing this. This is 55 minutes ago, live updates from Fox News. The media is gushing. There is no other word over newly minted Democrat nominee, Kamala Harris. She was being portrayed as having the money and the mojo as she headed to Milwaukee. Quote, Harris hits the trail, powered by endorsements, money, and delegates, said the Washington Post. The excitement is understandable. The mainstream press wanted Joe Biden to step aside. The vice president steps in and attacks Trump from an ex-prosecutor's perspective. And President Trump, for his part, calls her, quote, dumb as a rock, unquote. And given that Harris would be such a groundbreaker, the first female president, first black female president, first president of Asian American background, it's a hell of a story. But with Biden finally planning to address the country tonight, putting to rest absurd rumors that he was dying or dead, the spotlight remains fixed on Harris. Kamala Harris is not African American. Kamala Harris is of Indian American descent. So we're kind of looking at this going, okay, I suppose that it's the old John Huston, the film director's line of when you're given a choice between publishing a legend or publishing the facts, publish the legend. And so this is fascinating to me, especially in the context of Elizabeth Warren declaring that she was a Native American this whole time during her political career and her educational career for that matter, and then not being Native American. Why are we saying that Kamala Harris is an African American? Well, I guess this is going to be pointed out in the future. I'm just watching with interest as the circus continues to unfold. So there is this, and the gushing has gone on, and so on. But there are people who are skeptical and see this as a risky choice. The mainstream press wanted Joe Biden to step aside. The vice president steps in, and that's what happened. But with Biden finally planning to address the country tonight, putting to rest the absurd rumors that he was dying or dead, the spotlight is fixed on Harris. Let's see. Hillary Clinton is pushing Kamala Harris for president in the New York Times. Former Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton made the case for a Kamala Harris presidency in a New York Times guest essay today. Quote, elections are about the future. The elections are indeed about the future. That's why I'm excited about Vice President Kamala Harris. She represents a fresh start for American politics. She can offer a hopeful, unifying vision. She is talented, experienced, and ready to be president. I know she can defeat Donald Trump. She made the case that Harris is a, quote, savvy former prosecutor and successful vice president, unquote, could be the perfect contrast to the former Republican president. Though warned from personal experience, the vice president would face sexist attacks. Quote, Ms. Harris' record of and character will be distorted and disparaged by a flood of disinformation and the kind of ugly prejudice we're already hearing from MAGA mouthpieces. She and the campaign will have to cut through the noise, and all of us as voters must be thoughtful about what we read, believe, and share. This particular comment is kind of a mixed bag. Ms. Harris' record and character will be distorted and disparaged. Well, welcome to American politics in this particular circumstance, as we find that President Trump has been distorted. He has had his character assassinated. He has been through the ringer from a standpoint of attacks on his both professional and personal life, and indeed his political life. This is the way it is now. When you put a precedent like going after President Trump with figuratively all guns blazing, figuratively, you do put a precedent on the table, which means that, okay, if that's going to be the case, then we'll discuss the notorious past of Kamala Harris. In an X post this morning, I said this, and I stand by it. We are not trying to elect the next Mother Teresa. We are not trying to elect a new mayor of Boys Town. We are trying to elect a president of the United States. Those people are passionate. They are dynamic in both their public and private lives. To be perfectly honest with you, we put away, I was going to say put to bed, but the painful pun is just too much. We have already set aside in this nation that consenting adults in private are essentially dealing with their own private understandings of where they should be and where they plan on and what company they choose to share. Indeed, anything beyond that is a family circumstance that should be taken care of by the family. Linda Gates famously divorced her husband, Bill, based on some things that I'm not going to repeat here, but had to do with various conduct that she absolutely vehemently didn't agree with. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton settled it in a family way. They settled things in a family way, even though it played out on the national stage. They are still married. President Trump has been attacked. Some people say that he has done certain things that are ridiculous. Some people say that we're not exactly sure. I'm of the camp that says we're not exactly sure. But what I am sure of is that none of this is the business of the people of the United States. It is simply a scurrilous attack on the backgrounds of people who are dynamic and who are passionate. And yes, indeed, they would pursue a course of action that may not necessarily be within the societal mainstream. And to say otherwise is it's foolish. It's absolutely foolish. Now, there is one thing that I will say at the end of that. That's this. Just exactly, and this is part of the mixed bag, Hillary Clinton says voters must be thoughtful about what we read, believe, and share. And she is completely correct. If you believe the moral backgrounds of the people that you are about to vote for are at odds with your personal understandings, societal beliefs, what have you, then you should vote accordingly. You should. But that, again, is an adult activity in private. It being the voting booth. That's where it belongs. Should it be in the public discourse? Sure, if you want to waste a bunch of time. I want to know about issues. I want to know exactly where Kamala Harris stands. She comes from a California background. And California is in societal disarray. And so, do we need that in the United States? And I will say it here. Do we want a California liberal as president of the United States to Californicate the entire country after seeing the results of policies she stands for and have supported and what they have done to the state of California? Same thing with Gavin Newsom. We don't need to Californicate, in my humble opinion. We don't need to Californicate the entire country. What do you think? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. You know, we do have to be adults in this, don't we? We do. And I think we should be. Will there be a debate? Well, apparently, according to all people concerned, there certainly will be. I think that's a good idea. We'll talk more about that next.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service, bringing you the news commentary, analysis, debate, all of it. And so, as we come to this particular portion of the broadcast, the idea that there would be a presidential debate has popped up between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. There is reporting on this. I really do want to spend some time with it. This is a very short piece of video. It's actually a telephone conversation between Fox News' Bill Melugin and the former President of the United States on the topic. Let's take a look here on the Wells Report as we continue for Wednesday morning.
If Kamala Harris does end up being the Democrats' nominee, will you commit to debating her at least one time?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'd want to. I think it's important. I'm not thrilled about ABC because they're truly fake news. I watched last night. They're actually trying to make a hero out of Joe Biden when he was the worst president in history.
Yeah, that is an opinion by the president. The historians will decide that. But yeah, the former president, would like to debate more than one time with Kamala Harris. Trump debated Joe Biden June 27th. The president's poor performance prompted a rising number of Democrats to urge him to withdraw from the race. He did that on Sunday. He will address the nation tonight about that decision. There is also something else that needs to be discussed. And that has to do with the idea that that President Biden would pardon his son. And this is something that we ought to discuss. Again, from Fox News, speculation is mounting that President Biden will pardon his son Hunter, who was recently found guilty in a federal gun trial, despite the president and his staffers saying he will not give the first son a pass amid his legal troubles. I've been very clear the president is not going to pardon his son, said White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre in December. Biden himself addressed the issue last month, telling ABC News that he ruled out pardoning his son and answering on the affirmative that he would accept the jury's verdict in the case. The administration assured Fox News Digital on yesterday, the president's comments stood in regard to Hunter Biden's possible pardon. However, the credibility of those press aides is in doubt after weeks of denying that President Biden was considering quitting the 2024 political campaign. Now, this being said, you got to pay attention to a couple of different things. First of all, the president is not going to say that he's not going to equivocate on whether or not he's going to run for re-election. He's going to say he's in it to win it, and so on and so forth, all the things we saw and heard. Second, White House aides are going to stick to the messaging, including KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, who was likely blindsided by all of this like everybody else in the Biden campaign. As far as pardoning Hunter Biden as a father, I can say that I would have a real problem not pardoning my son, and indeed extending blanket pardons to his entire family. And I would expect that this is a discussion regarding just exactly what will be the legacy of President Biden. And so that being said, as a father, what would you do? Or as a mother, what would you do if you were the president of the United States? Would you clean all this up? Well, there is a problem with that, because any pardon under those circumstances would essentially be an admission of guilt, wouldn't it? And maybe that is part of the legacy that various people around Joe Biden are trying to, shall we say, curate as we come to this conversation. If I didn't care about my political legacy, absolutely, I'd pardon my son. And I don't know whether Joe Biden is going to do anything like that. But like I said, if he does indeed move forward with that pardon, it would be an admission of guilt. And that would be enough, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about you. Perhaps you should tell me. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The Wells Report in progress for this Wednesday, the 24th day of July, year of our Lord 2024. We're waiting for you. Give us a call, and we will return coming up in moments on this same video platform.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to address a joint session of Congress. It's going to be happening today. By the way, we'd like to say that indeed we've hardened up information as to when that address is going to occur. It has not happened yet. It was a little ambiguous in the reporting as to whether or not Benjamin Netanyahu had already spoken. Indeed, he has not. But there will be people in Washington, D.C. that don't hear the address in any form, insofar as dozens of Democrat lawmakers do not plan to attend the Israeli leader's speech. This includes Vice President Kamala Harris. They are protesting Israel's ongoing war against Hamas in Gaza, which has, according to Hamas, led to mass civilian casualties and a humanitarian crisis. All four top congressional leaders invited Netanyahu to speak to Congress, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Democrat Leader Hakeem Jeffries, but they will not be joined by some of their closest colleagues, including those who helped them lead the Democrat caucus. The second-ranking Democrat, Senator Dick Durbin, in the U.S. Senate, said in a statement that Israel's execution of the war in Gaza is, quote, a brutal strategy beyond any acceptable level of self-defense, unquote. He went on to say that Netanyahu's refusal to consider any peace plan that gives both Israelis and Palestinians a guarantee of security is inconsistent with a peaceful conclusion to this age-old conflict. I will stand by Israel, but I will not stand and cheer its current prime minister at tomorrow's joint session. This obviously from yesterday. And Senator Dick Durbin, astutely striding both sides of the issue at the time. He supports Israel, but not the prime minister, who is a prime minister currently as the prime minister of a country in a war. Okay, you know, those particular political statements that essentially are akin to hair splitting, I think speak for themselves. That's just my opinion. Getting back to the news, like Durbin, most of those who plan to skip the speech stress their support for the state of Israel, but condemn Netanyahu's government and its approach to war that has taken the lives, according to Hamas, of nearly 40,000 Palestinians. Senator Chris Van Hollen, the Democrat from Maryland, who spoke for 45 minutes on the Senate floor, distinguished between the Israeli people and their leadership, who he condemned for refusing to accept a two-state solution for the region. It must be pointed out that the Palestinian Authority has been offered a two-state solution over decades, and they have turned this down. All of that changed on October 7th, when Hamas terrorists essentially overflowed the border there between Gaza and Israel and slaughtered over 1,200 people. So that's obviously a change. It's also equally obvious that this is a bad, in my humble opinion, a bad political move by Democrats. You need to keep this in mind because Vice President Kamala Harris, who indeed is the president of the Senate and would indeed supervise or at least preside over the joint session of Congress, is also not going to be there. She's going to speak to a sorority group instead. Vice President Kamala Harris, says Fox News, the presumptive Democrat presidential nominee, is skipping Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress, instead giving a speech at a sorority conference today. Fox News Digital confirmed yesterday that Harris declined to preside over a Wednesday joint address to Congress by Netanyahu because she will be in Indiana for an event that was previously scheduled per an aide. According to the vice president's public schedule available today, the event is Harris's keynote speech at the Zeta Phi Beta sorority in Grand Boulay, Indianapolis, or sorority's Grand Boulay. By the way, I'm sorry. The actual function itself is the Grand Boulay, and it's occurring in Indianapolis, Indiana. Harris, who on Monday became the presumptive Democrat nominee for president following President Biden's campaign suspension, will not be in attendance before the Congress and will not be able to assume her vice presidential duties as president of the Senate. Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, a Republican senator from Ohio, will not attend. This, according to The Hill, citing a Trump campaign advisor. All right. So a Wednesday poll from CNN showed Harris trailing Trump but improving over Biden's performance. The Trump lead was 49% compared to Harris's 46%, which we have previously reported on this broadcast. Here is the problem that I'm seeing for both Democrat leadership and the party in general. Democrats have historically enjoyed nearly monolithic support from the Jewish community here in the United States. The attempt to try to split, divide, if you will, the people of Israel, the country of Israel, from their current prime minister is anti-democratic, don't you think? And it also runs a risk that I think is far more poignant and far less thought about in Democrat leadership circles. Does the Democrat Party, who has shown over the years at least an arm's length avoidance of support of Israel, do they run the risk of becoming the United States pro-Hamas political party? Imagine what would have happened. Imagine what would have happened back on December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese forces bombed Pearl Harbor. If indeed people immediately called for a ceasefire between the imperial forces of Japan and the United States, the answer, of course, is no. How could we possibly expect the government of Israel to do the same thing with a death toll that is nearly identical? The answer is you can't. As this was a crime against humanity under anybody's standard, what Hamas did in Israel on October 7th was horrific, horrendous, and very much like either a 9/11 or a Pearl Harbor. It is plain to me that attacking the prime minister of the only democracy in the entire Middle East is both undemocratic and anti-Jewish. And I say that insofar as there have been a lot of people that say, my God, anybody who doesn't support Kamala Harris, well, you know what's going on there. What's going on there is that they're bigots. They're sexists. Okay, if that's the standard, how is this not anti-Jewish bigotry? How is this not anti-democratic? How is it? Somebody explain it. There's got to be a Democrat watching. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. So does the Democrat Party want to be the pro-Hamas party? That's what I'm seeing. I don't think they do. I think it would be a gigantic mistake. I think it would be an error of epic proportions. And that being the case, I believe that at least the voting Jewish population of the United States would have cause to reevaluate their near monolithic support of the Democrat Party. Don't you think? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, will address the nation at later on tonight. I believe that the actual time is going to be somewhere around 9 p.m. That's Eastern time. Let me double check that with help from USA Today. President Joe Biden will address the nation from the White House. It's his first national address since his announcement that he will not be running for re-election. USA Today will provide live coverage for the Biden address, which is scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be 7 o'clock in the Central Time Zone from the Oval Office in the White House. You can watch the embedded video live at the top of the page or USA Today's YouTube channel. Biden officially dropped out of contention for the Democrat nomination over the weekend, endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as his successor, who has quickly secured enough Democrat national delegates to become the presumptive Democrat nominee. By the way, she's also raked in a whole bunch of money. Let me see if I can bring that to you here. Oh, yeah. Here it is, $126 million in 3 days. Okay. There is also, by the way, news, and I'm sorry we're kind of hitting this in a scattershot sort of way, but Fox Business is reporting that Elon Musk is pushing back on reports that he's donating $45 million a month to a super PAC backing President Trump. Billionaire Elon Musk is denying reports that he is donating $45 million a month to a super PAC supporting former President Donald Trump each month leading to the November election. Quote, "What's been reported in the media is simply not true," he said in an interview with conservative commentator Jordan Peterson. "I am not donating $45 million a month to Trump." This comes after the Wall Street Journal reported that Musk was planning to donate $45 million a month to America PAC, which focuses on registering voters and urging swing state residents to vote early and request mail-in ballots as a way to counter Democrats' quote, "get out the vote," unquote campaigns and on-the-ground efforts. Trump, in an apparent reference to the report, said at a campaign rally that he read that Musk was giving him $45 million a month. He didn't even tell me about it. Well, there may be a reason. There may be a reason. Also, by the way, the president was indeed quoting the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal is pretty well known for getting their stories right. And that the President Trump, decided to quote the Wall Street Journal was not something that was, shall we say, altogether wrong. I will point out that we did not report that story here on the Wells Report because we couldn't double source it. And so if indeed the president had double sourced his sources, maybe he would have had a different story to tell. But all this leads up to the various states of play regarding Kamala Harris, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and of course the President of the United States, Joe Biden, who will, from the Oval Office, address the nation tonight. I remember seeing Lyndon Baines Johnson saying at the end of about a 30-minute speech that he would not accept a nomination to be the candidate of the Democrat Party in the 1968 election. By that time, it had been widely known that President Johnson was indeed suffering from leukemia. And there were other reasons why, notably the Vietnam War, which had blown up in the face of LBJ, who, according to many sources, was trying to run the Vietnam War over the objections of his own chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Joint Chiefs out of the Oval Office, and it was going very badly, as you might expect. Well, that fortunately is not what's happening here, although the world is in conflict. And indeed, Joe Biden is, again, on both sides of the Israeli-Hamas conflict, but a steadfast supporter of Ukraine. Now, will any of those things be brought up? Have they cost him? Did this cost him the election? No. His mental faculties cost him the election. At least the perception of his mental faculties. It should be noted that Christopher Wray, who has briefed the president several times, was asked today in the Judiciary Committee hearing whether or not he noticed any degradation of the president's mental capabilities. He testified that he did not. That being said, that's not what the country thinks. And it certainly is not what Democrat leadership thinks. And I guess they believed that allowing President Biden to continue his reelection efforts in the face of his debate performance and all of the hue and cry of the circus following that debate performance was enough so that they would set aside 14 million primary votes, and essentially by any other term, they have acclaimed Kamala Harris as their presidential nominee. Well, this is a party that has constantly stood for democracy, yet in this particular segment, just one segment, we've seen a willingness to not support democracies in Israel, and we've seen them setting aside the democratic process in pursuit of Kamala Harris as their party nominee. These are anomalies that can't be easily explained. They can be easily ignored, but they cannot be explained. So what will be the case? Well, apparently the mainstream media is, in their words, gushing over Kamala Harris. That will slowly wane as time goes by. But there are things that they are not going to be able to explain, both the mainstream media and Democrat leadership regarding the president of the United States being deposed by their party. So they expect, I think, that the political damage of all of these anomalies is less than allowing Joe Biden to run for president. We shall see. There was also something else that I thought was interesting. All of this acclamation for Kamala Harris does carry a risk. What if Kamala Harris faceplants in the coming weeks, from a standpoint of figuratively, of course? What if she faceplants by making a stupid mistake, as she's prone to do? What do you think? Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. You're not going to believe this, but there is other news, and it's important, and it's worldwide as we go, indeed, coast to coast and around the world. This is the Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for spending time with us today. I appreciate it. If you find value in this broadcast, by all means, subscribe to it. Whatever you do, pass it along to your friends. Share it. Ask them to subscribe. Make sure you like the notification button so that you know when we're on the air. Mark Greer said, hey, I'm not getting my notifications. Mark, click the button and thumbs ups. Thumbs ups are important to us. It tells the people on these platforms that, yeah, this is a viable broadcast. And that's important. Also, by the way, if you'd like to support the show financially, go to patreon.com/The Wells Report. That's Patreon, Patreon.com/The Wells Report, common spelling. And you can throw us a couple of bucks every month. It sure would help us out a lot. As a matter of fact, it has helped us out a lot. And I sincerely appreciate everyone who has subscribed, not just with their eyes and ears, their minds, but also with a few dollars every now and then. I sincerely appreciate it. There is other news. I know you're sitting there going, what could possibly be other news? Oh, it's a little thing called the Olympic Games. The 2024 Paris Olympics kick off tonight with men's soccer and rugby sevens. However, for those of us unable to reach catch the entirety of the Olympic events, waiting until after work to settle down on the couch and cheer on our chosen American representatives is the only option. However, what will actually be airing at that time? What will fans be able to watch during the primetime hours tonight for the Olympics? This is what we are here to answer. Here is every primetime event happening tonight, July 24th, on the opening night of the Olympic Games. All right, let's see. TV channel scheduling. Let's start with that. All right, and that is useless on any possible thing. So let's see. Unfortunately for Olympics fans, there will be no live events happening during primetime hours today. That isn't to say fans won't be able to watch replays. NBCOlympic.com, NBCOlympics.com's broadcast schedule will feature replays from earlier in the day. Beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, USA Network will air a replay of the U.S. men's national soccer team groups play match against France. They will also air replays of Japan versus Paraguay, Iraq versus Ukraine, and Mali versus Israel. All right. So here's the full schedule. This is all on NBCOlympics.com. Men's Group C, Uzbekistan versus Spain. This is men's soccer. Argentina versus Morocco, Egypt versus the Dominican Republic, Guinea versus New Zealand, Japan versus Paraguay, Iraq versus Ukraine, Mali versus Israel, France versus the USA. Rugby sevens, men's pool play, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And that's on Peacock and NBCOlympics.com. Events will be broadcast across NBC, USA Network, Telemundo, NBCSN, CNBC, and that's basically where you can see everything. Now, if you have the time, and if indeed not only do you have the time, but you also have the willingness to get a Peacock subscription, which by the way I have, you can watch the Paris Olympics live via stream. So there you go. The Olympics. I think it is one of the most important things in the human endeavor. It started in ancient Greece, where various provinces would send their best athletes, and the world started showing up. The modern Olympiad started in the 1920s. And a lot of people say that this was basically an opportunity for the very wealthy of various countries to send their otherwise miscreant youth into a discipline of athletic endeavor that would lead to the Olympic Games. And that is basically what we've been dealing with. But it was really good during the Olympic Games and the various Olympiads that indeed Athens, Greece was picked to be the host country and place for the Olympics, because they use some of the same fields that were used thousands of years ago. Pretty impressive. And that pursuit, cynically said, essentially pursuits of rich kids, adhered mostly to amateur status athletes. And that has been changed over the years. Professional athletes now go out into the Olympic Games and the Olympic arenas and ply their trade, as opposed to someone driven by something else, an amateur willingness to give up time to pursue an athletic endeavor that is ancient, arcane. Let's face it, throwing a discus is not something that you see at the park every day. But that was the true spirit of the Olympic movement. And frankly, I miss it. I do. I really did enjoy seeing a bunch of college kids go up against the mighty Soviet Union hockey team and defeat them for the gold medal in the Olympics. And I got to be honest. I have to be honest. I miss the days when we saw college students coming together to represent the United States, as opposed to professional athletes that do this for a living. A lot of people said, well, the Soviet Union had those athletes because that was their job in the society. Well, yeah, in the society. Not necessarily in the private sector free enterprise world. That would be something a bit different, wouldn't it? And I miss that difference. This has been the Wells Report for this Wednesday, the 24th day of July, year of our Lord 2024. Thanks again for joining us. We sincerely appreciate it. If you would like any information about this broadcast, you can call me on the telephone 817-379-2172. Send me an email, thewellsreport@frontier.com. We will see you again tomorrow for another edition of the Wells Report. Alrighty then. Let's see. What do we got here? I was talking about a face plant. Ann points out, like the mistake she made yesterday and today, she's a gaff machine too. This is going to be a problem. Gary Absher says, make Frisbee golf Olympic. Yeah. Great show, JD. Have a wonderful day, says Yvonne. Have a great day, everybody. Oh, Cleo Marchese. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, JD. Hi, Cleo. I hope you and Angelo are doing very, very well. We miss you very much. Looking forward to getting together. And we've been saying this now for too many years. Let's make it happen. Can we, please? Back with more tomorrow. Until then, take good